I thought I was getting sued by Allstate because we got an envelope like this thick. This is one of the tests that confirm what we were doing, and my office staff wouldn't open it, so I had to show up to open it. But no joke, it was an envelope. We opened it up. I was thinking it was going to be a letterhead from attorney. There was something going on because you never get thick envelopes from Allstate, right? But no kidding, it was 17 checks that we had been paid on from jobs that we'd finished in the last 2 weeks. All of them were paid in full. There was no argument. There was no issue on payments. It was all of it just boom, boom, boom out of the blue. And he simply just called me and kind of what took the blinders off. He just said, why is it from your company, whether you're in Utah, Colorado, or Nevada, we get perfect documentation from you guys? The first 6 years I was in business, I was so annoyed that every Wednesday meeting, we'd have our meeting and I'm asking the same thing till I'm blue in the face. Where's your pictures? Where's your readings? Why didn't you document? Like, when you can't control those aspects, at least for me, speaking about me, is that I didn't feel like I could progress and grow. It's not now a debate of who knows more. It's just we all have the same goal. It's just making it consistently get there the same way every single time, whether you've got 30 years of experience or like a day of experience. You'll get the same consistency across the board and not have to like fight an ego, in some situations of who knows more or what.
Hi everyone. Today we have another opportunity to talk about Magic Plan and Clean Claims. We had the joy of jumping on a call just a couple of weeks back, exploring the myriad of possibilities and the different angles. And yeah, back then we basically said it would be cool to do a more in-depth session. And I think that's what today could bring us. Give us a little bit of industry background and then just dive in deep about what we think is cool about the two products and why we think they are significant.
I love it. Let's get into it.
Just a reminder, Lane, for everyone who doesn't know you, which I suspect are not many, what is your background? Give us a quick backstory about who you are, what you've been doing, what you're trying to do going forward.
Okay, yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time again. This is fun. I love talking about this stuff. So, yeah, background real quick on me is, so I've been in construction my whole life. Grew up cleaning up job sites. I've been in that realm. In 2008, in the crash, had some things happen, and then had family start getting into restoration. And that was when I got into it. And so from about 2007, 2008 on, me and a couple of family members built a couple different restoration locations. And then I ended up splitting off on my own and building 4 of my own locations. So I was the general contractor, so we could do all the putback for all of our work. And then we were in 3 different states and 4 different locations with our restoration company that I built. And so I essentially what led me here today is I've used every software application out there, and it seemed like everything that was built for restorers, kind of similar story to yours too, Andreas. Like, we've kind of exchanged stories of just the frustration of trying to get technicians in the field to do the work, really to document it, not to do the work, just necessarily the documentation, right? And then eliminating the he said, she said back and forth of getting paid. So that was what led to the development of Clean Claims, is building a product that is very, for lack of a better term, kindergarten level, we've been in situations where we train over 30, 40 technicians in 10, 15 minutes how to use our product, and it allows them to document what's going on the job perfect. So it's essentially that old saying, we don't get paid for what we did, we get paid for what's documented. And so Clean Claims was built to help the restorer to get paid for what they're doing, to help eliminate, and prove that if it took more than 3 days to dry out a structure, they've got irrefutable data to back that up, So creating that win-win scenario is what we're trying to do, where it's built for the contractor, first software probably built by a contractor for contractors, to then it also ties into the insurance space, where the carriers are starting to love what we're doing because of the fluidity and the ease of use of it, and getting the data that they need to see in order to make it to get paid. So that's kind of a quick background on where we've been, where we're going, and where we're at right now. So there you go.
Love it. I mean, what's obvious or not obvious, but you're from the US. I'm originally from Germany. And
Yeah.
what you just mentioned, you don't get paid for what you did, but for what you documented. And I mean, we have a stupid German saying, wer schreibt, der bleibt. So it's like who puts stuff down stays in the game, basically.
Yeah.
And it's fun that, I mean, fun. It's telling that this very same essence is true across kind of continents and oceans. So
Yeah.
I'd like to actually get give a little more time to what you've done building out those restoration locations to lead the audience to where we are now, because I think, I mean, I can tell a bit about what is my perspective, but I thought what was really interesting when I first heard about you is like, how did it come about that you actually said, okay, uh, you said you grew to 4 locations and then you were trying to grow even bigger, but then there was kind of like a a junction, a intersection, which could
Yeah.
either lead you left or right. Maybe go back to that point in time,
Yeah.
and what made you do what you're doing now.
Yeah, so the real whole point of the software in the beginning was to franchise my company. So being that we were already in 4 different locations, it was just becoming kind of organized chaos, right? Like it was working and functioning, but I wanted to have like more control about what was going on, being more efficient on our books, right? And so it came from that, so we started just doing testing in all 4 of my locations as we were building the software. We would implement it into our system, and the whole point was to franchise. And so as we were doing that, in the meantime, I bought a Jimmy John's sandwich franchise to really learn how to franchise. I didn't know a thing about franchising, and so I bought into that world just to kind of confirm that what we were building is it was really just following policies and procedures was the main thing. And so as we got building this and experimenting, we had a time, and I've told this story, so people on here hear this, I apologize, but we had a time where I thought I was getting sued by Allstate because we got an envelope like this thick. This is one of the tests that confirm what we were doing, and my office staff wouldn't open it, so I had to show up to open it. But no joke, it was an envelope. We opened it up. I was thinking it was going to be a letterhead from attorney. There was something going on because you never get thick envelopes from Allstate, right? But no kidding, it was 17 checks that we had been paid on from jobs that we'd finished in the last 2 weeks. All of them were paid in full. There was no argument. There was no issue on payments. It was all of it just boom, boom, boom. So that was part of like the reputation that we started building. And really what led me down this path is I got a call from a gentleman from State Farm that covers kind of the western states in the US. And out of the blue, and he simply just called me and kind of what took the blinders off. He just said, why is it from your company, whether you're in Utah, Colorado, or Nevada, we get perfect documentation from you guys? And to me, I'm just like, I don't know. I just, we created something. I was just sick of begging my guys to do their job in the field. And then I was tired of the arguing. And so what really led us down to create Clean Claims was what this gentleman told us. He said, well, what you've created is like the McDonald's of restoration, meaning that whether you're in Germany or, in New York, a Big Mac's a Big Mac. And so that was where kind of the blinders came off, and we were realizing like, well, heck, maybe instead of franchising, we can build this to help the industry to eliminate, those day-to-day nightmares of just like micromanaging your guys, begging them to do their job, the constant wasted times and trips out to jobs. Like if something got missed, like, hey, you didn't take before images, we're trying to get paid. Now they're not, now they're debating. So just eliminating all that shoulda, woulda, coulda, or the he said, she said, as we say, of those debates. So that was where it started. And it was really that gentleman at State Farm that kind of took off the blinders and was like, hey, maybe, he just said, this isn't your problem, it's an industry problem, and that was where he was like, you should look at like offering this to everybody and not just keeping it as a franchise. So that's kind of a little background of like where it came about. Is I just had my little niche and did my thing. And then that opened up the door to like, holy cow, well, if I can help other restorers get paid faster, stop wasting payroll for guys that aren't doing their job, just, a lot of different layers to helping the company out. So yeah, that was kind of where it stemmed from. Is it was like, all right, well, maybe we should license this instead of just build the franchise. So that's what we decided to do.
It's such an amazing story, and I mean, both those elements, the envelope full of checks plus this call, kind of like putting you on the spot on why are you so good.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah,
But excuse me if I dig even a little deeper. So you said you had this sandwich franchise.
uh-huh.
Um, do you still own it?
No, I sold that right before the COVID hit. I got out of that. Yep, to
Okay,
focus on what we
lucky
were doing.
you,
Yeah,
lucky you. But I mean, still, for anyone who's listening, maybe take us back to that experience and what do you think you learned about how good franchises are run and how did that translate into the software that you eventually built?
yeah,
Um, maybe
yeah.
there's some nice examples. Maybe we have someone listening who's like not full on into restoration. Maybe there is someone who's into restoration but hasn't really like has their small shop and didn't go in that thought process of what our franchise is about. Maybe you can give us a little more insight about what you learned when looking at this sandwich franchise.
Yeah, yeah. Really, to simplify, it just came down to the first 6 years I was in business. I was so annoyed that every Wednesday meeting we'd have our meeting, and I'm asking the same thing till I'm blue in the face. Where's your pictures? Where's your readings? Why didn't you document? Like when you can't control those aspects, at least for me, speaking about me, is that I didn't feel like I could progress and grow. Like we one year we increased our margins by our gross by about 4 million, but I paid myself the same. So it was starting to really look at the numbers and like what we were doing and where we were being inefficient. And where I was finding the most inefficiencies was like it started with the technicians in the field. Like they're the ones collecting the most critical data. So the thought became, how do I get them? And they're mobile, right? It's different. Like in a sandwich shop, I can be in the sandwich shop and watch what everybody's doing, right? The restoration space, in other fields is different. It's mobile, right? And so it's like, how do you take like that concept of processes, like, back to that McDonald's analogy about like a Big Mac's the same wherever you go. How do you implement that into a world that we're in where it's all mobile? You like all the trucks are on the road, all that. And so that was where we started dialing in and looking at the numbers of like, okay, we started looking at like our cost per job is where we kind of started, is like, what are we losing every time we go out to a job? What does it cost to have a technician go back out? We did the math, and at the time when I had my companies, I know that if we sent a technician out in a van during hours, it would cost me $325. So we kind of just factor that in, an hour, drive time there, an hour on site, and then an hour back. And then with the price you're paying your technicians, just breaking down the numbers of like, how do we become more efficient? Where are we just bleeding money where we can stop that? And really it came down to missing data. And so what kind of confirmed this is I had a really great team. Couldn't have gotten where I was in my restoration company if it wasn't for the people that worked with me. Is it was just kind of solidifying, okay, here's our policies and procedures. And then with the software, we started implementing that. And I kind of just wanted more confirmation. As like an entrepreneur, it's like we're always second guessing ourselves. It's like it's hard to bounce ideas off of other people because you either get the misunderstood interpretation of it, or you know what I mean. There's always like you kind of feel alone like when you're owning a business. So the Jimmy Johns came around because I wanted to confirm that the steps and the step-by-step processes, is that the right direction to go or is it not? And so when I got into the Jimmy John's franchises, I mean, even coming down to the mayo, like it was having consistency even on the bread. There was a scoop for mayo that would give you the perfect amount that was supposed to go on, and then you had to use a separate spatula to then spread the mayo. So it was that constant consistency and the same step every time. So that was kind of getting into the franchise world. Even though it was sandwiches, it just confirmed that like you've got to have a step-by-step process in order to get that consistency across the board. Because the problem was for me is I hired a 30-year veteran, tons of experience, was great. but he ended up being a cancer to the culture because he would tell everybody what I was saying was wrong, or or whatever it was. And so it was trying to help eliminate that debate. I think a lot of restorers can relate, is like, you hire one restorer from another company and you may think they bring on bad habits, or vice versa. You know what I mean? And so there's always a different way of doing it, but the end goal is to get the same results of that consistency of, we have to get the structure dry, we got to get rid of the odor from the fire, we have to restore the structure, but then prove that we did restore it with that consistency. So in my mind, it was, the easier I can make this and the easier it can flow. Kind of going back to a franchise, they've got it dialed in. Like this sandwich place, like, I mean, it is like letter of the law of processes of what you have to go through. So that really helped me a lot, just to kind of confirm with our development and what we were doing, and the strategy of just getting that consistency. That franchising like really, really helped a lot, because I thought, people think, well, who cares about how much mayonnaise you put on it? Just scoop it on and spread it. But it was down to like a science that, no, this is the specific amount that you put on, and kind of eliminating, you don't have a choice now of how much you put on. Use the scoop provided, and then the spatula to spread it evenly. So kind of that same concept of restoration, where I need my guys to take pictures of the front of the structure, get, outdoor readings, indoor readings. So when I can make it to where they have to do that and can't move on, then it's essentially just taking the thinking away. You know what I mean? Not that, no, like, people can't do it, but I tell my clients all the time, I'm guilty of, when you're on call and 5-10 calls come through, you tend to run around with your head cut off and forget to do things. So the whole point of this is to then consistently not forget or not to do it. And then we're taking away opinions, by adding in the S500 standards and then like E3 standards. It's not now a debate of who knows more. It's just, we all have the same goal. It's just making it consistently get there the same way every single time, whether you've got 30 years of experience or like a day of experience. You'll get the same consistency across the board, and not have to like fight an ego, in some situations of who knows more or what, you know what I mean? So it's just really creating that transparency and ease of use, of getting that critical data in the field. So, yeah.
Lane, this is why I like our conversation so much. All of what you said makes total sense, but it's also just clicking instantly with like my thoughts and what brought me to do this. And I'd like to pick up on three things because, well, I like them so especially much. I always tell one story with your kind of like picking up the phones and being on multiple calls. I always like to tell one story when at like 11 a.m. in the morning, I thought, okay, I need to call someone with whom I talked earlier today. So that was, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, first, second generation iPhone. And I scrolled down my list, right? And I just kept scrolling. And then I was finally getting at the number. And after making that call, I thought to myself, okay, how many people have I called this morning? And by like 11 a.m., I had 42 calls.
Oh, man.
And that was just, okay, if I do 42 calls until 11 a.m. in the morning, I mean, no wonder I'm forgetting stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that is really what made me say, okay, I need to bring some structure in. I need to plan ahead. You can't just wing it. If you're doing 100 calls a day, I mean, kudos to you, whomever like keeps your head straight on this. Well, I don't, and that was really the inflection point for me when I said, okay, it can't go on like this. You need to bring in some structure. There needs to be some more organization. There needs to be kind of like some routines, so that you don't want to remember at 11 a.m. who do I need to call and then go back for the. I mean, I obviously had spoken with that person the very same day, and it still wasn't clear what we need to do.
Right.
So that is really one of the elements where I say there needs to be some better way of organizing stuff. And then second point, trying to bring that home. I'm not sure about that, but when I started, I always said. And that's going to your sandwich shop. When I started, I always said, well, if you want to have your apartment redone, it's like you want to have your apartment redone. And I try to link it to a burger. If you go to a restaurant, you order a burger. You don't order like one sliced tomato, some flour, some water, and then you bring it together, and then eventually there is a burger. So what I said, there is a burger. But if you are in your home, whatnot, I mean, you really need to know the quantities that go in there, right?
Yeah.
It's not a quarter pounder or like I'm blinking on the exact weights now, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you basically you know what I'm talking about.
Totally.
You care about the end result, but you don't necessarily care so much about the ingredients. But still, the ingredients need to match for the end result to taste good, right?
Right.
So this is what really brought me into this magic plan. Like, if you want to redo a room, I need to know the number, the amount of paint, flooring, whatnot, because eventually I need that room complete, right?
Yeah.
I don't care about if half the room is complete. And you said,
Yeah.
well, it's somewhat what you said you need. So to quantify that, what is the exact amount of stuff you need, and like how should it be presented to bring some conformity into this, was really this second element where I said, okay, I need to bridge that gap about how much do I need, where, when, what, right?
Yep.
That was really this other element. What I tried to do very early on is give me the plan, give me the fundamentals of your home, of your room, of your whatnot, because then we can talk about it.
Right.
And then that second point, I mean, it's obvious what you say. It's $325 or $320 an hour. And this constant back and forth. Oh, I forgot something. Oh, I need to check something again. I mean, that's just, first, it's a drain, just personally, mentally, just as with your phone calls. But then also financially, it just doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Again, try to get in order once and then just follow up on it, rather than kind of building out the plan as you go, because that is crazy costly. And I think, I mean, this is really what we are all about, and what kind of like the industry is all about. Get in some more routines is really, I guess, where the two of us connect eventually, and then our two products connect. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
cool.